bit, just because of noise. I wanted to tell you about one of the things on the river here. If you look straight across the river, there's a building down in the trees, the brick building with a dome on it. That is Fort McNair, and that's probably the third oldest military installation in the United States. That was here, not the building, but the fort was here during the War of 1812 when the British came. And the British knew all about it. It was called the Washington Arsenal. And they wanted to take the fort because they wanted to capture the black powder in the magazines. Well, the Americans knew they were coming. They knew they were going to lose the fort, but they didn't want to lose the black powder, so they hauled it all out of the magazines. The problem was it was too late to get it out of town. The British were at their doorstep, so they decided to hide it. They put all that black powder down an old well on the place. They figured the British would never think to look down the well. And you know what? They didn't. They found it another way. One of the British soldiers chucked a cigar or a match into the well. A tremendous explosion demolished about half the fort. Unfortunately, killed about 20 of the British. They burned the place and they moved on. It was rebuilt as a federal penitentiary, and that's what it was in April of 1865 when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. They rounded up the 4 co-conspirators, the people who helped Booth assassinate President Lincoln, took them right over there where they were tried, convicted, hung, and buried, including a woman named Mary Surratt, who had the dubious honor of being the first woman ever executed by the United States government. All happened right over there. Well, if you look over our shoulder, you'll see a jet coming down the river. These pilots are doing an approach called the river visual. Now, the river visual is a pretty tricky approach. What the pilot has to do is line up with the Potomac River, starting at about the Washington Beltway to the north, and then keep the jet right over the river until they get to these trees right here behind us, where they have to make a sharp right turn. See another plane starting the river visual out there now. He's about 3 out. They'll fly down the river. Now these pilots come in, these planes do about 140, 150 knots on final. That's really slow for a big jet. They like to fly a lot faster than that. It takes a lot of skill to keep that jet twisting and turning over the river. Most major airports, the pilots line up, they'll airport 10, 15 miles out, and they just go straight in. That's not the way it works here. They have to twist and turn down the river, and then make a very, very low altitude, low speed, sharp right turn at the trees here. Very quickly line up the runways. Okay, make a sharp right turn. Give her a little gas in the turn. And hit the runway. So you'll watch this plane coming down now. Let me take her back from you now. Good job. Thanks to our guest captains today. Everybody did a nice job. Whoa! Is it all right? Now see, that plane is still not lined up with the runway. Very, very late to not be aligned with the runway. Here comes that final turn.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's not uncommon for these pilots to miss their approach. They make the final turn, they're too high, they're too fast, put the power to it, and go around and do it again. In fact, I've been on one that did a missed. Normally they tell you it's because there was another plane on the runway or something. Runways here are pretty short. They're adequate, but not a lot of extra runway. So they really have to have their act together. And